Hi, and welcome to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, whole person leadership facilitator, and your host. The Human Side of Business podcast is fueled by the genuine curiosity to understand how personal characteristics and skills can be leveraged to drive individual and team performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately organizational success within business. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, expanding our learning edges, and exploring the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of organizations. I'm so glad you're here. Hi there, this is Ange McCabe, CEO and co-founder of Intuitive Performance, where our business is the success of your business. I'm a performance coach, HR professional, facilitator, and your host of the Elevate Business podcast. The Elevate Business podcast is a journey of discovery fueled by the curiosity to genuinely understand what makes people tick when it comes to their professional path, choices made, and the personal characteristics that drive performance, tangible outcomes, and ultimately success. The Elevate Business podcast is here to promote the enormous contributions of small and medium-sized businesses around the world by exploring the actions that make a workplace successful, the trends in corporate culture towards growing the emotional intelligence of an organization, and how we build whole person performance from the ground up. Each podcast is devoted to sharing knowledge, growing our learning edges, and honoring our passions with a special guest who has elevated their business, overcome obstacles, and inspires others to do the same. So glad you're here. Hi, and a warm welcome to episode 4 of the Elevate Business podcast. I'm your host, Ange McCabe, CEO and founder of Intuitive Performance. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Jen Warrington, co-founder and principal of the Fusion Group and owner of JenWarrington.com for individual career coaching. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, thank you.
So excited to have you here. So Jen, tell us about yourself, your company, and what you do in brief.
Okay, yeah, for sure. So as you said, I'm Jen Warrington, and I have been in the recruitment field for the last 14 years, started in agency world and then moved into the corporate side of things. So have a long history of sourcing top talent in the marketplace, mainly across Canada, a little bit into the US, and have recently ventured on my own and forged a new path. So I am offering recruitment services to small and medium-sized businesses who normally wouldn't use the agency approach due to the cost that might be associated with that. So I've created a bit of a model that will allow me to disrupt that space somewhat and attract those businesses that need that support and the expertise of someone who's done quite a bit of hiring over the last 14 years. And then on the flip side of it is really making sure that I can create a safe space for individuals who want to look at new career opportunities and how to navigate that, whether that be through resume writing, cover letters, their LinkedIn profile and how to engage that platform, as well as interview preparation, or even just figuring out, hey, what is next, and having that dialogue around, I don't know what I wanted. I know what I wanted to be when I grew up and it didn't really turn out that way. So what is next for me? And helping people to really have careers with passion and purpose that they love and thrive in.
Exactly. And to our audience and our subscribers, I've done my research and Jen's being a little modest here. So when she says I've done a bit of recruitment, what that means is that within those 14 years, she's recruited both across Canada and into the US. And I think the numbers are up over, what is it, Jen? 3,500 resumes that you've reviewed?
Well, no, I've hired 3,500
yes.
in my 14 years. And I think if we were counting resume reviews, we'd be close to 6 figures. If not, then by the end of the year probably would be. Yeah. So a lot.
Exactly.
I know a good resume when I see one. And when I don't.
I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
So when it comes to, that disruptive model, what got you to that place that you wanted to disrupt the industry for recruitment? Yeah,
it's a great question. So I think for me, having had experience on the agency side, which is how I started as a business development manager for an agency here in Halifax. And then moving into corporate, I've seen both sides of it, right? So I'm either the recruiter approaching the company of like, let me help you fill your business needs from a talent perspective. And then I've been, hey, I'm, on the other side, kind of pushing back on the recruitment model because of the fact that the fees that can come associated with it at times can put something negative out there for people that really, if they don't understand the value of what a recruiter or an agency can do for you, you just see it as a really big fee. And one of the things that's been really important for me as I've gone through my journey of getting to this point and starting this business was, how do you do something that's cost effective but still get the value and the experience of that subject matter expert and whatever that looks like?
Mm-hmm.
And it was really important for me to say, in a small to medium business space, I'd guarantee, like I'd bet money that a lot of them be like, I wish we could afford a recruiter, but how do we do that when the fees are 18 to 20%? Or I've used a recruiter in the past and it hasn't been the greatest experience for whatever reason. And it was really important for me that to be able to leverage the relationship strengths that I have when building and establishing relationships and rapport, but also to be that voice for those individuals in a small to medium sized business that wouldn't go that route. So I thought about it long and hard and really said, this is a model that other agencies are probably not going to love me. And I have to be okay with that because I'm going to be an island on my own. And then I really need to break through to other people to say, this is what distinguishes me. And it can be cost effective, but the same type of value if you are paying that fee. I have a friend that lives in Toronto and he does IT recruitment. And the pushback that he's gotten, which also helped me to come to this spot, was, if I don't find a candidate for my client really, really quickly, they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go to another agency. And now you're all kind of sharing in that same pool. Mm-hmm. The flip side of that was if you find someone really, really fast, they can't justify the fee, not seeing all the things that go behind the scene. Right. So I thought I'm going to create a model that, inspires confidence and creates value, both in terms of the talent that come to the table and as well in terms of the cost-effective return of an investment. And it allows me the opportunity to be the captain of my own ship in that sense. So that I came to it from that place because I think it's really important, and I'm hoping to be that disruptive voice moving forward.
Exactly. Those are all powerful words. And so, Jen, tell us what motivates you? Because it's not every day that you get up out of bed and decide after 14 years of corporate that you're just going to start 2 businesses.
Yeah. And during COVID, but why not, right?
Why not, right?
With 2 kids not in school. Yeah. So what motivates me, I think I've got 2 motivating factors, to be really honest. On the personal side, it's obviously family and a legacy of something that my kids can be proud of and that I'm, proud of being able to build as, again, that one person on that island. And while I have a lot of great support around me in terms of like the tribe that we say or the people I align myself with, the reality is that there, can be really lonely at certain points of this journey, trying to, formulate your ideas and get them out of your head and onto paper, and how do you make them work and all of those pieces. So for me, that personal side for sure. Professionally, what's motivating me right now is seeing that I can create impact and value based on the experience that I have. And it's really important for me to, I want to be that go-to person for someone's like, we need to hire, whether it's 1 person or it's 25 people, to be like, what, we're going to talk to Jen Warrington. Or someone's like, I need to change my career and I don't know what to do. I need to talk to Jen Warrington. So that's really driving for me because I'm going to be able to determine how successful I am based on how successful other people are, whether it's hiring that talent or supporting people to find careers that they love, right? Which I think is so critical in this day and age, for sure. Definitely. More so than ever.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's twofold on that side.
That's really interesting. So going a little bit deeper, when you're talking about kind of what drives you, what I'm hearing is that from a professional perspective, you've really kind of honed in on your gift, and you want to be able to give to not just career seekers, but also to employers as well. So it's kind of, there's kind of 3 folds in there is what I'm hearing.
There's a lot of duality for sure. I think, again, having been on both sides of it, I've been like, hey, let me in, I want to help you. And then I've been, hey, pushing back, I don't need your help, right, from when you use the recruiter piece. So I definitely can appreciate both sides of it. Mm-hmm. And what I think is really important is when you have, it's always relationships, right? But when you have a really good relationship with someone that you can go to, whether it's, once a year or once every 6 months or, more than that, and they understand your business and they understand what your pain points are, as well as the talent that's going to fit inside that organization, not necessarily fit the role. You create a relationship out of trust and credibility and integrity, and then you're their go-to person that they probably down the road wouldn't be so concerned about the fee. But the reality is because you have a cost-effective model, or because I have the cost-effective model, that they'll see a tremendous value in that relationship that we have. And then it will literally be, oh, we know we need to hire X amount of people. Well, we'll hand it over to Jen, and she'll do what she does best, and be that specialist for them.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me on the career side of it, I've seen a lot of candidates miss out on opportunities because either the resume wasn't great. I talked to someone earlier today and said 90% of the resumes I see are a variation of bad, and that's really true, because when were you taught to write a good resume? Right? I only know what to do now because I've lived it. I've reviewed so many of them. I know what works and what doesn't and what catches the attention. So it's really important for me to, like you said, give back in the sense of, I'm going to make sure that you have all the tools you need. I'm going to make sure you're confident in how you use them. And that confidence and that knowledge is going to help you to really, again, select where you want to be and what path you want to be on. Because interviewing and joining companies today it's a two-way street now. It's not just, I got to impress this company. You also are interviewing that company. Mm-hmm. And people need to have that knowledge put out to them so that they can make those right decisions for them. And there'd be a lot more happier people, I think, doing what they love. Or at the very least, it's not going to be 100% all the time, but loving the company that they represent and the role that they do and the impact that they're making. So there's a lot of duality in it, but I think that they dovetail together really, really nicely. And I'm hoping that that's going to be a model that will, really, I'll be able to shine some light on what that model can look like, and maybe others will follow suit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. A champion for change, for sure, is what I hear coming out of this. And, something that really resonated with me is that you're absolutely right that it's a dual street, in the sense of we're interviewing companies versus companies just interviewing, potential team members or employees. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, a lot of times it's the employee market versus the employer market. And so what would you tell our audience by way of the services that you offer? Because, going a little bit deeper on what you're saying there, and I can appreciate how humble you are, but some of the services that I've seen that you do is you really coach, people, not just about changing careers, but how to show up in the interview. And we've all read those articles about interviewing 101, but you really kind of give them the course, in the sense of, what they need to do to separate themselves, because it's more of a marketing game now versus just the interview game.
Right. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. For me, it's really, when you look at it, for the interviewing piece, you are a brand, right? Like whether it's, if I look at the career coaching website of Jen Warrington, well, I am the brand, but the reality is whether I'm a graphic designer or whether I'm an IT specialist of some sort, an accountant or whatever that looks like, when you show up to that, your experience, that's your brand. And if you can't confidently and effectively communicate that, it's hard to talk about ourselves, right? It's hard to, like you said, oh, I'm being humble. And, when I hear kind of the feedback that you give me, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, people are going to see that. So how do I make sure that I instill that confidence into the other individuals that I'm going to coach through that? Because there's so much more that comes from the interview if you're confident. And if again, we all know what our resume holds, right? We all know, hey, these are our accomplishments and our experience, and these are great projects I've worked on, and this is how I've done X, Y, and Z. But there's another level to that. And it's, I guess, the human level, right? It's coming in and saying, this is why I'm great for your company. This is why I've done what I've done. And I can be humble about it and not feel like I'm bragging, because as soon as I think there's that fine line of, I can share my accomplishments, but if I share too much, okay, now I got to hold back because now I'm being bragging. And then it creates an anxiety and you stuff it down and not do it. So it is really important for me to say, let's cut through, all the stuff that floats around in our head. And I say this a lot too, like your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And in an interview, you can go in really confident, but if you don't kind of keep that train rolling, you can kind of start to feel, I'm not really sure. And then you're like, oh, wait, did I answer that question right? I need to go back. And all of those things inside our mind are really not helping us when the intention is of making sure that all comes out. So I try to prepare people and have them say, like, okay, what do you love? Like, let's talk about, these are questions you're going to be asked. Like, let's make sure that we know that. And at the same time, let's cut through kind of some of those things as they pop into your mind, because I think there's a psychological game to it too, right? Like, oh, they're hiring, they're interviewing 2 more after me. How do I know if I'm the best candidate, and all of those things? So coaching is really important, but it's really stripping away all of the fears and insecurities that we all have. I mean, from an interview perspective, I'd feel pretty confident going into an interview if I had to. At the same time, there's other areas that I might not be so confident with, and I'd need to, again, strip it away. So I really try to do that with individuals, and also position, like, this is your opportunity to make sure that that company is a fit for you. And I've said this to candidates for probably 12 of the last 14 years, is that if it's not a fit for you, the more questions you ask, you're able to self-identify and either graciously and respectfully move yourself from the process so that you could be considered for another opportunity at the same company down the road, or you feel really secure in the decision and not leave a job you're okay in to take a new role and think, 6 months later, if I had just asked that question in the interview, this would have changed that. So I really push people to be like, ask those questions. And here's questions that I'd recommend you asking based on the information you'd shared. So again, it's a relationship. I really want to understand what makes someone tick, and especially in terms of their career. So I can say, like, these are questions you're going to need to ask, right? And be confident in asking them, because I think at this stage, employers are expecting that you're going to ask questions that are not, when you Google the top 5 interview questions you should ask a potential employer, right? We've got to be a bit more creative with that, because the 5 people before or after you are going to ask those same things. So how do we separate you? And I can help you be comfortable to ask those questions.
So you're in the market for both the employer and the employee. So when it comes to staying on top of the trends and ensuring that you're leading yourself, what do you do to harness those things?
That's a great question, and it's a tough question. It varies for me and changes. I spend a lot of time, networking and having conversations with individuals, whether it's in their particular industry, whether it's, other recruiters or HR professionals, to see what's working for them and what's not. I do a lot of podcasting, listening to different podcasts. I do a lot of LinkedIn searching. I find there's a lot of really great information on that platform, and I leverage it quite significantly. And then I'll be really honest, and I try to really step back and say, okay, let's look at this from a really simple lens and say, what's potentially working and what's not working, and does it create a trend? Is it the downside of a trend? Is something up and coming? So it's a bit of a mishmash for me. I think that's one thing that, probably doesn't fit very textbook in terms of how I sometimes do things. But for me, it's being very self-aware of who I have around me that I can pull to for information and get their insight. And then where do I think I can add value by really just stepping back and going, okay, what's the simple answer here? And is this something that, again, will trend up, trend down? And how do I make sure that I'm leveraging that to the best of the ability based on the candidate? And sometimes it's research alongside the candidate, right? A candidate for a company that comes to me as a client says, help me prepare for this. And learning the other industries, right? Like there's stuff that I would never have known maybe 6 months ago. And now I'm like, okay, I can speak to that effectively. And I've done some research, and that can be done hand in hand with someone who's asking me to help prepare them for their next step.
Exactly. And so, wearing that entrepreneurial hat, what I'm hearing is that you really can't stop performing. And, it's something that you continuously have to educate and socialize and network to get yourself to kind of the next rung or proverbial rung. So when you hear that word performance, like what are the first things that come to mind for you and its meaning?
So for me, I guess the first couple thing that comes to mind is it's self-performance, right? Like, how am I going to critique myself so that I can improve? Because I now do not have a leader who is going to, performance management or performance appraise me or any of that. So for me, it's self-performance, and it's how am I going to show up every day with the enthusiasm and the commitment that I have when I'm in the high piece of things? Because as an entrepreneur, as we kind of have chatted leading up to this, there are highs and lows and roller coaster moments, but it's literally, not forgetting the why and being able to say, okay, being self-aware so that I can perform at the highest level. Because if I have 5 calls with clients that I'm going to help them be excited about their next career step, I need to be able to be excited about what I'm doing and making sure that I'm performing at that high level, like elite level, right? Kind of a sidebar to that is, for those who know me, and you'll know this, I'm a fanatic Raptors fan, like huge. And one of the taglines I've pulled from some of the stuff they've done is around championship DNA. And I've really felt that while by no means am I an elite basketball player, I'm very comfortable to say I'm the championship DNA individual in my space for what I do, because I come at it with such enthusiasm and knowledge, and what I don't know, I'm going to go find so that I can give you that same knowledge and enthusiasm, so that I'm almost not making mini replicas of me as they go through different steps of the process, but really saying like, I'm the champion here, and I'm going to make sure you're the champion when you go in, because you're going to eventually feed off of that for me. So for me, going back to what does that mean? For me, it's self-performance, self-awareness and evaluation, and just making sure that I am, looking after my space professionally and personally so that I can perform at the highest level, which for me is going to come through my relationships and the enthusiasm that I bring to it. And, I can get you excited about a career search. And that's not something that I'm sure a lot of people believe, but it's true. I can light you up, and I know that.
Definitely. And
humbly saying.
But honestly,
it didn't sound very humble, but
it shows. And I think, acknowledging that's confidence, it's not bragging, it's fact, because time and time again, I mean, if you look across your testimonials and you see it in your website and you look at the posts, any individual that has the opportunity to work with you are going to see those same facts. So I just want to put that out there.
Thank you.
You said something else there that was really interesting about the entrepreneurial roller coaster ride. So when you're on those lows and that things just, they're not clicking as fast as you want them to go, or maybe that day didn't turn out the way that you want it to be, something simple to even complex, how long does that kind of roller coaster low last for you? And what types of thoughts go through your mind?
Great question. I would say that the answer today is very different than what it would have been at the beginning, like 6 months ago when I started to determine that this is the road that I was going to go. And I probably would have stayed in the low a lot longer. So what I think is really important to acknowledge is that everyone's journey is different, and the highs and lows are going to be part of it no matter what, like regardless of, career, personal, or what have you. For me, it's been a lot of mindset work because I could stay there. For me, it would be like, okay, I'm panicking. Like there's not enough client, or there's not enough interaction, or no one's getting back to me, and I'm ready to go. I had a conversation yesterday with the other co-founder of the Fusion Group, and he said, you're going 150 miles an hour, and you're just go, and your goals are so audacious. Like maybe you need to tone it back. And I was like, maybe you need to sit back for 1 second, because that's really important to me to be going with that enthusiasm, so that if something knocks me back, it's not knocking me back that I lose 100% of my enthusiasm, and maybe only losing 30% of it, and I'm still at 110. Because I have the ability to, I think, to panic and again tell myself those stories of, okay, now the clients aren't going to come, or maybe a client, I had a client like I shared with you that paused on some of an engagement we were going to do, and I was really deflated 6 months ago about that. We started to pick back up, and now because of COVID, they've had to pause again, and then my reaction this time versus 6 months ago is completely different. But it's being very honest with yourself, and literally I have conversations with myself in the mirror and saying like, is this fear, is it going to be something you're going to let come all the way in and kind of rain on the parade of the other things you're doing? Or is it legitimate? Like, right, is the whole business falling apart because this one client paused? No. And having that dialogue and literally making myself answer the questions, and that's come from a lot of mindset work over the last 6 months of it gets to be easy. But it gets to be easy because you train your brain to say it, it's going to be easy because you have the tools, and that you wouldn't have come this far to only come this far, right? Exactly. And so there are a lot of cliches around like those kind of quotes and statements. But the reality is that I truly believe that if I say, oh my God, it's going to be so hard to get new clients, whether that's on the career coaching side or that's on the business side supporting organizations, then it's going to be hard. And because I'll start to believe that and be like, oh, this is why I didn't get a call back, or this is, someone's not responding to an email or a message. So for me, it's mindset. I will let myself wallow, if you will, for at most a couple of hours. And then I really try to say, okay, journal it out or write down, brainstorm. Like, what's your next kind of thought process? Who can you reach out to next? It'd be reaching out to, someone in the space that I respect and admire, but also I know that can trust would be like, you know what, Jen, I'm going to call you to the mat and I'm going to call you out on that this is not rational. And we're going to pull you back up, right? So that's also really important. And I know we've kind of had those, conversations over many different platforms and different things like that. And I know that I could pick up a phone and say, Ange, like, I'm freaking out. And you wouldn't let me stay there that long because of that, again, that entrepreneur compatibility that we have and that rapport. So I think, there'll be days that probably it might be a bit longer, but it's literally going, okay, hold it, got it. Feel it for a second, and then how do I move on from that? And maybe it's, sending an email. Maybe it's putting a social media post up. Maybe it's, saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to jump off the high dive and, create an event, and I'm going to start talking to people because that fires me up and that creates an enthusiasm that's very, very natural that I don't even realize I'm, going the 150 miles an hour with the big audacious goals that I've been doing that I'm like, really? You want me to slow down? Like, I haven't even really started. So, but again, 6 months from now, it might be a different way to approach that, and I might stay down a bit longer. But it's having good people around you, and it's having belief in yourself, and it's really having those conversations with yourself in the mirror around, you know what, stop telling yourself negative stories and find the positive.
Right.
But this client pausing for me might mean I can now take on 10 other people who I'm going to find amazing careers for as COVID starts, to allow us a little bit more breathing room with the things that we're doing. And those 10 clients, finding new jobs for them is, huge. That's life-changing for families, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I know it's a really long-winded answer to your question, but I think that will also be cyclical as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's needed. I think it's needed for us to hear that from multiple sources and multiple places and multiple times, because it really truly is about mindset. It's so powerful in how we can shift. You could look at, from a performance perspective, you could look at two interviewees, excuse me, and they could be coming from the same university with the same GPA, same skill sets. And, one individual just may have more, higher level EQ or soft skills and have more of that confidence or powerful mindset versus the other. And that's the game changer right there, essentially, right, when it comes to winning an interview competition versus not. So whether you're applying this as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a professional, as a new grad, all of what you said is so powerful, and I'm so appreciative of your share there.
For sure.
So you also mentioned 6 months down the road. I enjoy that you're always forward thinking, and it's important. So if you were to look 6 to 12 months down the road, what is your approach in discovering your next steps?
It's honestly, it's being uncomfortable, right? It's going to be, for me, putting myself in either situations that I don't know a lot about. So whether that's an industry with regards to a client, whether that's, partnering with someone who's also independent and trying to help them navigate certain things, because I can bring something to the table and so can they. And then I think with, on the career coaching side, it's, that model is always changing, right?
Right.
What looks good today or how you interview today is going to maybe be different, and a lot more stuff's going to become automated, and how are we going to get around that? So I think, for me looking forward, it's always going to be, there's going to be something uncomfortable and there's going to be something to learn, and never second guess the experience that I already have while learning something new, right? Because then you're saying, oh, I'm not cut out for this. Well, yes, you are, because you already have the foundation. It's just a new learning curve. And how are you going to show up for that? Because again, I have to have people trust in me when they're uncomfortable, whether it's to hire people or to help them find something new, that I can inspire that confidence. So I'd need to be able to do the same. And I've seen a lot of value in being uncomfortable the last 6 months. And, no one wants to hear that. We all want the highlight reels and everything that's, everything's great and this is fun. One thing that I will say is I am unapologetically authentic and very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And that has made me understand that, if I'm not willing to be uncomfortable, then this is not the road for me to go. And then how many people am I not able to impact? And to kind of close that part out, when probably about a year ago now, my son, who's now 12, said to me, like, I understand dad's job, but I don't understand yours, right? Like, I know what dad does because dad's a police officer. I get it. I don't know what you do really. And I had to think about it, like, how am I explaining this to an 11-year-old, right? And I said, I help people live lives that they can enjoy with their families because the job they get or the career they choose as the result of what I'm either hiring them for or preparing them for allows them either more money to travel. It allows them to put them on a career path that they can progress, that again, now maybe they can buy a house, or now maybe they can get a different kind of car or things like that. And I said, so for me, it's really important that I'm creating that impact for people, that it's going to impact like how they, where they live, how they live, what the things that they can do extracurricular outside of work. And that's when I was like, okay, explaining it to him at 11 at that time has now made me realize that all of these things I'm doing is I want to create more impact for people so that their lives are more positive. And the unfortunate reality is that the job you have and the money you are paid is directly tied to those kind of experiences. So that for me is like, that's why I have to keep it going, because I can't afford, I guess, from a perspective of what I want my own legacy to be, to step back and know that I might miss 10 or 12 or 100 or 500, whatever that looks like over the next course of the 20 years that I still have left to work, in terms of who am I going to impact, that then it's impacting their family in a positive way, right? And that's really, really important for me.
So powerful.
So it's being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be uncomfortable. I've cried. I thought, oh my God, I can't do this. And then I'll talk to someone like you, or I'll talk to someone who I've helped. And the feedback I get, I really try to be receptive of it instead of saying, oh no, don't say that. Like, oh, thank you. Like, it's not that big of a deal. When it's like, that stuff fills me up to say you are doing the right thing, but you are going to have to be uncomfortable while you're doing it. And again, it's that balance, right? There's a duality to that as well. So it's okay to be uncomfortable. My highlight reel is not always going to be pretty. And I'm going to share that. I'm really committed to that with businesses and with candidates or clients, because I think they need to know that. Like, it won't always be fun. You might not get the job you want, but if you don't, or you might not find it, if not, we'll create it. There's ways to do that. I know you're laughing because you're like, yeah, that sounds like something you'd say.
I am. And I'm kind of laughing because I'm trying to form words, because you are so succinct in how you communicate, but yet so passionate. And there's just so much in there. I'm thinking, how do I surmise this?
Be uncomfortable, fail forward. And just surround yourself with really great people who will, if they don't know what to do, that they know who to put you in touch with, right? Like, I have the utmost confidence that if I needed someone to do what you do, that I could say, hey, you know what? I'm going to connect you to Ange. You need to speak to her, and know that someone is going to see that same thing and say, you know what? You need to speak to Jen. And it's really important for me that people understand, like, it's about who you have around you, but who they can also put you in contact with as well. And that makes all the difference.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I think of how we met, like, that was just one great person going, you and you need to get together. And, the snowball and domino effect of that has been fantastic. Whereas if I didn't leverage that connection, or vice versa, those two paths may not have connected at this point. So I think that that's really important.
It is.
But just be, unapologetically yourself, and be honest with yourself in terms of what you want, and be okay with being uncomfortable, because no matter what you do, any change is uncomfortable, right?
This is it.
Jobs, performance, even staying inside the company you're in and taking a promotion, there's a learning curve to that. Don't beat yourself up on that.
Exactly.
And have mentors, or have people you can vent to.
So powerful. Discomfort is growth. 100%.
It really is. Crap though, right? Again, we're not taught this stuff.
No, we're not. And it's so funny that you say that, because I was speaking at, I was actually facilitating for Microsoft during their soft skills community. And that came up in the Q&As with regards to, well, where do we find more information on these soft skills and emotional intelligence, because we're not taught it. And depending on what model you look at, there's a whole person quotient, and it could be 5 quotients or 7 quotients. So things like we know our IQ, we've heard of EQ, but then there's the agility pieces, and on and on we go. And over half of those are actually soft skills versus hard skills. And we're just not set up for success. So now it almost feels like we're in a place of performance where it's like, okay, there's 3/4 of me that I don't really get. I know it's there.
Right.
I know that thing happens and I'm triggered, or I react this way, good, bad, or indifferent. But now I'm like, as adults, we're kind of struggling a little bit in this discomfort to figure out, okay, where are my pieces and how can I grow?
Right. And I think, a great thing that you say on that, which also ties into, a couple different buckets. But the first thing for me is when you look at it from that perspective of how you are going to coach and lead people through performance, it's saying, you know what, let's put the hard skills to the side for a second and let's look at what those soft skills are. Because what I'm seeing as a shift in the market right now in general for employers and for, individuals looking for new opportunity is the transferable and soft skill is going to be huge. And that again is going to come down to your self-awareness of what those pieces are for you and how you're going to articulate them with confidence, because it does it comes down to a bit of that. Am I being humble or am I bragging? Because not everyone's soft skills are the same, and being confident and self-aware to articulate them. And, that's why I love the platform of the podcast. And that's why I love the ability to have the conversations, because you can strip it away so it's not feeling as formal of, hey, we're going to do this diagnostic tool, or we're going to have you do this assessment or those pieces. It's literally saying, like, think about what those soft skills are that, you might not have. The hard skills, anybody can be taught a hard skill, right? That's the reality. And that's what we're taught. You go to school, you learn the hard skills, and you do that job, and that's the way it goes. And we live in a world where the hard skills are great, and they're important, and they're critical to many different pieces. But your soft skills, I truly believe that the soft skills and the innate pieces of you that shine through are so much more critical to your success, because, I know where I thrive. Obviously communication and the verbal piece and the written word and talking to people and pumping them up. But if I decided tomorrow that I wanted to be a graphic designer, I can go learn that hard skill. That doesn't mean that a graphic designer or an accountant or whoever can then turn around and learn that communication skill, because some of it is just innately inherent and is what it is. So I would love to see people put more emphasis into figuring out, hey, what are the soft skills I have? What are the transferable skills that I have? And how do I leverage them so my performance is better with whatever role that I'm in? Because you will shine there. Your performance will be better. Your growth in your career will be better. And it's all going to tie back to something that you probably didn't learn in school. And I'm not discounting education by any means. I'm absolutely not. I think it's very critical, important.
Agreed.
But there's another piece that needs a light to be very brightly in front of so that you can see it, because that will make your career very, very rewarding.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jen, for joining me today. As always, it's been a pleasure to chat with you. I really appreciate you sharing your entrepreneurial insights with Intuitive Performance and our subscribers. For those who would like to learn more about your business, we're going to provide a link to your company's profile on the Elevate Business Podcast title page. And take good care, Jen.
Thank you. You too.
And to all of our subscribers, thanks for listening to the Elevate Business Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the program. You can subscribe to future podcasts at intuitiveperformance.com, where you can also sign up for webinars and learn more about professional coaching and the performance solutions available to help you elevate your peopling skills and derive actions for success. Until next time, stay true to you and take care of each other. We're all better together. Thanks for listening to the Human Side of Business podcast. I'm glad you could join us. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, make sure to visit our website. The link can be found in the episode description, where you can subscribe to the podcast, sign up for our newsletter, and learn more about our whole person leadership services. Sounds interesting? Explore the Whole Person Leadership Cohort by Intuitive Performance, a unique program that offers unparalleled support to managers on every step of their leadership journey. Our program features evidence-based assessments, workbooks, group coaching, and interactive learning experiences to help you level up your leadership skills. Reach out today to apply to one of our upcoming cohorts. Until next time, take care and stay curious.